Hi guys, my name is Ankit Goel and I have my colleague Ishan Bansal joining with me today. We both work with the enterprise engineering team at Airtel in India. This presentation is targeted towards enterprises who want to transform the engagement with their customers by enabling omni-channel and real-time communications. Airtel IQ is a cloud communication suite from Airtel that exactly does this. It helps you transform your customer engagement. So let's dig in. Okay. So we are living in a connected world, right? Communicating with your customers at every stage of your product lifecycle is critical to keep your customers engaged. As a matter of fact, 84% of enterprises across the market segments have reported an increase in revenue based on the level of engagement that they are able to establish with their customers. So basically, there are four driving factors around having a need for communications or real-time communications. So the first one is the kind of communication channels and the way you communicate with your customers. Customers these days are looking for a unified experience across different channels like voice, SMS, WhatsApp, emails, and even chatbots. And enterprises today have actually realized this shift. So they are working towards enabling this cross-channel or omni-channel ways of communication with their customers. Now, a lot of these enterprises who had set up their traditional call centers, what they want to do now is they want to utilize their same workforce more efficiently by offloading the trivial tasks and their customer queries to some automated call flows or even chatbots for that matter. So they are trying to automate the way they serve their customers. The third big factor is around analytics. Now, with so much communication and channels opened up, these enterprises would need a deep level of analytics, both the call analytics and also voice analytics for some very niche use cases to further improve on their engagement models, gather more business insights, and hence then drive further efficiencies for their business. The last driving factor is customer privacy, right? Now, these enterprises need to obviously ensure that the privacy of their customers and even their own employees is maintained. And they have to comply with the various regulations and data protection laws that keep coming up in the respective countries. So let's see how these enterprises today are managing these requirements around communication that we just saw. So a lot of these enterprises use aggregators to be able to establish calls or send SMS. What these aggregators do is they lease a PRI line, which is a physical internet lease line from a telecom provider like Airtel. And then they build their own service layer on top of it and expose these as services to the enterprise customers. Now, while this ecosystem has been working like this, at least in India for the last 10 years, but it has its own limitation and constraints, which we just want to highlight. So the first one is setting up your own physical infra obviously makes it a more complex proposition to deploy and then maintain the whole solution. Then these aggregators obviously increase the cost factor due to their intermediate margins that they incur. Next is this integration between the aggregator infra and the telecom infra has its own maintenance overheads, which leads to subpar or very average service quality SLAs. The next thing is troubleshooting. Obviously, it gets more complex when it comes to the point, for example, is it an aggregator service platform issue that the calls are not connecting, or it's a telecom provider network issue? So there is no end-to-end ownership there. And above all, what we have seen in India is this aggregator ecosystem fares very low on compliance to standard regulations, and they suffer with a lot of gray areas around the customer privacy protection, and especially around SMS. So with all these challenges in mind, Airtel actually took this as an opportunity. So our core business was always network. So we started working on a cloud communication platform, which is more intrinsic to us and is more closer to our core capability, which is network. And so the idea was that we wanted to build and enable communication as APIs for other enterprises to consume. And at the same time, we also wanted to overcome a lot of the previous limitations that we saw around the customer or aggregator based ecosystem. So we called it Airtel IQ. This is our cloud communication platform. We have kept it simple and intuitive. It is reliable and robust, and it is secure and compliant. We will cover each of these three big aspects in detail further. And for that, I'll try to, or I would hand it over to Ishan.
Thanks, Ankit. Let's jump into each of these pillars and see how Airtel IQ is offering best-in-class services for the business needs. The robustness. If we see the existing architecture, enterprises are connected with an aggregator who procures ARI lines from the telcos. So there are multiple hops involved, which leads to a higher issue resolution time and higher call setup time. Whereas in case of Airtel IQ, enterprises directly connects with the Airtel's robust set of APIs, which are sitting with the core of Airtel's infra. Thereby, the hops are limited and we are able to give very low call setup time and very fast issue resolution time. Let's just deep dive into what makes Airtel IQ so robust in terms of application and the network. The first piece which we want to touch upon is the distributed deployment. Airtel IQ embraces microservice, loosely coupled microservice architecture, wherein each of these components are manageable and scalable individually. The deployment is also distributed across multiple data centers. Lower call setup time, we've already talked about it in the last slide. Redundant call paths. Airtel IQ application connects with the network using a VoIP layer in between. Each of these layers are deployed in multiple data centers with near site active deployments and far site active passive deployments. This is where we are able to give an uptime of north of 4 nines. And just to highlight one point over here, we provide a collective uptime of 99.99. Collective in terms of both network and application. Whereas all the aggregators are only able to control the application part of it. Let's go into the next tenant, which is the multi-tenant architecture. Another crucial characteristic is the logical segregation of resources and service path for different clients. Each client data is processed in a separate queue partition, and these queue partitions are being assigned to a separate consumer thread. Thereby, there is a Chinese wall placed between multiple clients. Intelligent operations, Airtel IQ, entails intelligent AI ops, wherein we are monitoring all the application KPIs, business KPIs, and system KPIs continuously. The data is fed into a centralized influx for reporting onto a Grafana dashboard. The system also proactively generates alerts based on the predefined matrices. There are some self-healing scripts also placed to automate recovery from undefined circumstances and ensure we are always up. Resilient infrastructure. We have already talked about a lot of stuff in this. Mobile network. Airtel IQ is being powered by Airtel's core mobile network, which already serves more than 340 million subscribers with a presence of 450K 4G mobile sites pan India. Last point which we want to touch upon on the robustness piece is upstream and downstream overload protection. Airtel IQ allocates fixed set of resources to upstream client. There are multi-level circuit breakers placed to ensure that the downstream applications are not overloaded. The platform also is protected with rate limiting features, which is applicable for both HTTP and SIP at customer and global level. Let's jump on to the next premise, which is the intuitiveness. Airtel IQ offers programmable building blocks, which can be plugged very easily to the customer applications in a self-serve mode. We provide Lego building blocks using which any customer can come and configure his call flow according to the business requirements. And these call flows can be pre-configured at Airtel IQ's end as well. We provide APIs to call the pre-configured call flows just by providing some configuration at the runtime. Configurations like which participant to add, what announcement to be played can be passed on the runtime as well. The second piece which we want to touch upon is the intuitive analytics. Customers can come and create the analytics and reporting of their choice. You can define what all parameters do we need in the reporting. The parameters can be created by multiple other parameters combinations. You can define what all keys do we want in the reports. So this level of customization is also possible. And this all is just self-serve. You can come and do by its own. Business friendly. We offer an intuitive graphical user interface to create call flows, to see the recordings, to see analytics, to see and download all the reporting for the business needs. We'll just like to go deeper into the APIs, which are the Lego building blocks of our system. We provide very basic call flow components, which can be plugged one after the other to just create any call flow to serve the business need. Components like initiate call, add participant. We'll just take some example over here. The example which we have on the right hand side of the screen is a simple inbound call flow scenario, which is used in multiple cases like taxi booking and food ordering services. Wherein the driver is just calling on a virtual number and the call actually lands to a customer. So how this is happening? We have a parameter which is incoming call parameter and an action parameter, what needs to be done once the call lands onto IQ system. Then once the call is answered, just add the participant, which is the customer in this case, and so on, so forth. So just by having these 6 building blocks, you can create the incoming call flow to serve the business need. And just in case, if you want to change the call flow to a more user initiated, wherein user can just click a button and initiate a call. You just need to place initiate call instead of incoming, so that the call would be also initiated to the driver at the first place from the system itself. So these APIs are quite flexible and modular to serve any business need. Jumping on to the security pillar, we'll just talk about security in 3 aspects: platform security, data security, and the compliance angle. IQ delivers scalable call flow components with comprehensive security. Multiple applications communicate with the IQ using APIs which are highly secure. All the communications are encrypted with best-in-class industry standards. All the infra also resides on the private cloud of Airtel, which is safeguarded by firewalls to control access between trusted and less trusted network. Data security. Our powerful APIs can log and record data so that customers can see and view the ROIs. However, we have taken extra precautions to ensure that there is no threat to the customer data. Capabilities like recording encryption, where all the recordings of the customers are encrypted using asymmetric encryption, in which means that the recording can only be decrypted by the person who is customer in this case, who has the access to the private key. Airtel IQ as a system can't access that recording as well. The compliance piece, being a telco, we are highly regulated and compliant by multiple authorities like Reserve Bank of India, Department of Telephony, ECDISS, ISO. All the info is being handled very securely at Airtel. Let's jump into the product principles. Here, we would like just to give you a flavor of what are our product principles. Airtel IQ started as an incubation within Airtel. We set up a small team which will operate like a startup with no restrictions and all full flexibility. We had customer at the center and worked customer backwards. We interacted with multiple customers and gather requirement from them, what the customer need, brainstorming multiple use cases, which customers needs to solve. Then once the requirements were gathered, we went back and mapped to the long-term strategy, evaluated all the requirements, assessed them, and then defined what all features do we need to build. That is where the product roadmap was defined, and we strategically defined what all success metrics which needs to be measured and what is the product which needs to be built. Once the definition was clear, we went into the building phase. The building phase was iterative and agile. We had full automation in place. We built, we iterated over it multiple times. We interacted with customer during the building phase and then measured whatever was built. The measuring was done in both functional and non-functional matrices. And the loop continued. We went back to customer for the new requirements, and that is how we are just building our product. With this, I like to just invite Ankit to walk us through what all business use cases are solving to Airtel IQ.
Sure. Thanks, Ishan, for explaining the features so beautifully. So now let's see what it means for the enterprises and what value does it bring to the table for them. This is all the features that we have just saw, right? So the first advantage that we provide is that we can give a kickstart to your marketing initiatives. So you can use IQ's custom call flows and click to call APIs to reach out to your prospective customers. All these interactions are recorded, which you can then further use to create leads, run analytics, and then you can target specific customers further. These interactions are omni-channel. We support both voice and SMS. We are planning to open up WhatsApp in near future. And then these communications can be then stitched either in your app or on your web with anonymized virtual numbers, or in telephones as we call it. And on top of it, we also provide rich analytics and insights for your marketing campaigns. So you can further drive efficiencies, overall making it a smarter proposition for your entire business. The second advantage with Airtel IQ is that it enables a personalized experience for your customers via rich customized call flows, as we saw in the slides that Ishan explained earlier, right? It also has support for intelligent and contextual mapping for your customers when they call on your contact center. So the customers and your agents are better able to connect to each other, and overall, you can serve your customers better. Again, as a standard, You get insights and analytics for these calls that are happening. And also you get analytics for your support agents to identify key improvement areas and drive the efficiencies further for your business. The third advantage that IQ brings to you is intelligent business operations. So what it means is you are able to keep your customers and your own employees informed at every stage of your service workflow. These communications are secure via virtual numbers that maintain the privacy, and this communication is real time, accurate, reliable. It just works every time. So that's a huge value add. So now that we have looked into the business advantages, let's see some of them in action. We will cover few of our customer case studies to help you appreciate the value that IQ can create for your business. The first one that we have picked up is Rapido. So Rapido is a bike taxi service in India. You can book a ride, then a pilot or the driver kind of reaches out to you, and then the trip is serviced. So as you can imagine, Rapido would need a timely and accurate communication with its customers, and that too safe to maintain the privacy of its customers and also of its own riders and pilots. Let's see how Airtel IQ helped them. So we enabled this secure communication with our reliable APIs, working with our virtual numbers to anonymize the every interaction that is happening between the pilot and the end user, which ensures the privacy part of it. Rapido was actually able to achieve 99.9% success rate with our solution, which actually it could not achieve with its prior existing solution. That was a huge value add on Rapido part, and they were able to appreciate the value. So that was happy customer number one. The second use case is that of a Swiggy. So Swiggy is India's largest online food ordering and delivery platform. Now their challenges were twofold primarily. One was around quality of service, which they were kind of drawing from their existing communication provider. So the SLAs covered by their current provider were only the application level SLAs. They were not controlling any glitches that happen on the integration to the network or on the network side of the stuff, right? The second challenge was cost. So it so happened that Swiggy was paying twice for each call that was getting established between its agent and the end users. And this was happening because their current cloud communication provider was charging them for the two legs of the call individually, which happens with the communication provider sitting in the middle. So Airtel IQ pitched in, right? And the first thing which we were able to do for them is we were able to give them end-to-end service SLAs, including network, being a telco ourselves. So it helped them build confidence for better uptime. And they started experiencing near zero call connectivity issues with our solution. But all the more, what they were able to achieve was 50% savings on the cost, since Airtel IQ solution charged them only for one call that is happening between their agents and the end customers. So that was a huge saving on their part. Apart from these two, they were able to obviously enhance their customer experience as well with the real-time analytics that we were able to offer to them. So all in all, happy customer number two. The third case study that we are trying to pick up for you is JustDial. Now, JustDial is a classified listing portal in India, just like Yellow Pages. What they needed was a reliable communication between its listed customers who are listing their entries on their platform and the end users who would try to reach out to these listed businesses. So obviously, Airtel IQ helped them with a 99.9% uptime, which was a huge value add for JustDial. But JustDial had a very specific problem to solve. They were specifically looking for spam protection for their listed business customers. So if you see, one of the biggest challenge in this listing business is that there are a lot of callers from marketing or job search firms which keep calling these listed businesses again and again, kind of spamming these businesses, right? And JustDial wanted to enable some kind of a protection around this. So IQ offered an intelligent spam detection software for them. So we were able to detect such spam calls by enabling real-time rule sets, which were obviously customized for JustDial. And then we were able to offer them spam protection as well by automatically blocking or blacklisting such spam callers, which actually helped JustDial to bridge its biggest challenge. So that was happy customer number 3. So all in all, we have come to the end. So if you need more details on our product or our APIs, if you are a developer, you can browse through our website. And for any specific queries that you have, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Ishan, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you very much.